first came to Thailand about 13 years ago, yeah, we really fell in love with the place. And then about 6 years ago, we moved here permanently. Would I be here now if I knew then what I know now? I think you better ask me another time. Hello. Oh, hi, Dominic. How are you? Sorry, say again. What, say shot, I mean dead, or? No, and where? Sorry, say again. All right then, see you in a few minutes. Bye. Yeah, the shelter's situated in the northern part of Phuket. We've got 11 full-time staff there. Includes 3 vets, our dog catchers who are out obviously for part of the day, and 4 permanent kennel staff who are looking after the dogs and looking after the clinic as well, of course. It's very difficult work and very emotional work, and a lot of people who are initially keen to help do find the actual hands-on with the dogs is sometimes just too draining on them. And so it is hard to keep volunteers. But we do have a few regulars.
We found a puppy with a very, very bad open wound on its back. Not something I'd want to repeat very often, wading into a rubbish dump full of all sorts of insects and not very nice things. And the puppy obviously saw me as a threat, so went into self-defense mode, as you would if someone's trying to catch you, and bit me about 5 times, 3 times on one hand, once on the other, and once on the arm. I've had my rabies jabs. It's possible that I'll have to go along and have a booster now, and certainly something for tetanus. The puppy now stands a chance of survival. She will have a good life. She'll grow up in Soi Dog. Someone might foster her or want to adopt her and take her home. She stands 100% better chance than if she'd just been left there to fate.
Was very strong before. And,
Which of the dogs?
Very, very strong before.
So which are the ones that are shot?
No, it's not this one, it's after. This one is sick.
This one is
He
sick?
was very strong, very, very strong. He hit too much, and yesterday he stayed down and he eat, and yeah, I don't know what, yeah.
So how many are shot?
2.
2? Yes. So there's 3 altogether.
Mother,
This one.
mother and son, the mother and son.
So we could take him up there. Yeah, we're going to take the other 2, so...
3? You can take?
Yeah, if they'd be all right together in the back, yeah?
After bring. Di qua pa hamo mai kao moniti.
Okay, by clinic.
And Capi, okay, die qua on met. He is very friendly. Oh, very.
Dr. Max is our senior vet. He's been with us now over a year, and he's been qualified for over 3 years. He's learned very, very quickly here. You have to. And we're very, very happy to have him as part of the team.
No, the puppy. Yeah.
Injection, maybe vaccination.
Yeah. When? 6 months ago?
6 months ago.
Yeah. So I think it's okay.
I think rabies vaccination and tetanus
Tetanus.
within 24 hours.
Within 24 hours?
Yes.
Okay.
Dominic is he's one of our helpers. He literally goes all over the island to places people don't even know about, in jungles and things, and finds dogs.
Maybe the bullet is inside, I don't know. Because he not go outside, he not go out.
It's not come out?
No. And
Yeah,
mother
okay.
of leg completely destroyed.
Destroyed?
The mother, yeah.
Where's she?
She's here.
Virtually every day we see awful things. Everything from dogs that have been set on fire with petrol. Machete wounds are very common. A lot of dogs which have been shot. And there's a big problem with injuries and mange, which leave the dogs with open sores that fly legs in. Yeah, it looks like air guns, actually. That leg looks gone. My wife Jill and I have been involved in Soi Dog since it started here in 2003. For the past 3 years, it's basically been Jill and I running it together. We both have different roles. Jill, often to her frustration, spends most of her time in the office. Fundraising is absolutely vital, and she's far better than I am. Like many married couples, we're total opposites, really, but we do complement each other. I tend to spend more of my time on the practical side, going out catching dogs and dealing with whatever emergencies come in that day.
Good job she's paralysed by fear, otherwise
Yeah.
I don't think she'd be so calm. So Dr. Max has taken the puppy in and cleaned the wound out very well. It looks like quite healthy flesh underneath, so I think we've got to it just in time. And he said there'll be a period of recovery of about 3 weeks to a month, and then hopefully she'll be able to go up for adoption and somebody will be able to take her in.
Okay, don't worry.
So I think it's probably going to be a happy ending for this puppy.
Okay.
Think it was kids, children or something, just shooting for fun?
No,
Or somebody tried to kill them?
People there. People there, somewhere there. Yeah.
Over there?
Shoot.
They shoot them, try and kill them, yeah?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, it's happen every day.
Yeah, yeah,
Everywhere.
yeah.
Do what you can. Huh?
All we can do. All
Yeah,
we
what
can
you
do.
can do. Yeah, you do all
This puppy was brought in by one of our volunteers. It was a big family with the mother and the father. So she told us that the puppies are old enough to feed on their own. So we think that we should send our truck to go and get the mother and the father for sterilized. Otherwise, there'll be more puppies.
I'm bringing the dogs to shelter. Yeah, 2 have got bullet wounds. 1 leg looked as though it maybe have to come off. All right, it'll only be about 15 minutes, 20 minutes. All right, see you soon. Our dog catchers, they've been with us now for over 4 years. Sometimes they act on information from tourists and just from local people, but other times they have to rely on their own instincts for where dogs are. Often, of course, it can be in very remote places, and that involves them having to leave their trucks at the side of the road and trek through jungles and up hills. They've then got to carry the dogs, of course, all the way back to the trucks, and it can be very hot and tiring work. 3, Sam. 2, You just watch that one go. This one, bullet gone in there. Now, whether it's a pellet or a bullet, I don't know. There's no exit wound. But there's a wound on the inside. We don't know. But again, where it needs X-raying to see or what?
ต้องหาอะไรมาลองเนี่ยไปหานะครับ
As you can see, there's no air leaking,
Right.
so probably missed the lung, but we don't want to do anything to risk. I think maybe it's better to X-ray.
Right, OK, so I'll take them both down, and then Tet picks them up tomorrow morning, brings them up here. OK, then. So you're coming for another car ride?
ยิงลูกดอกสุนัขที่จับไม่ได้ใช่ไหมที่จับไม่ได้แล้วก็วิธีการตามหาสุนัขบางตัวมันจะจับไม่ได้นะครับคือถ้าเราจะเข้าใกล้เขาวิ่งหนีแต่ทีนี้เราก็ต้องทำการยิงลูกดอกหรือว่ายิงยาสลบขั้นตอนในการยิงยาสลบหมานะขั้นตอนแรกเราเอายาสลบมาถึงโซลิติลและก็เซลาซีนมาผสมโซลิติลก็ประมาณดูน้ำหนักของสุนัขว่าน้ำหนักเท่าไหร่เราก็คาดคะเนเอาว่าเราจะใช้โซลิติลก็ประมาณ1 cc กับเซลาซีน 0.5 แล้วเราก็เข้าเอามาใส่ในลูกดอก
Hi, Dr. Treater. Right, I'm bringing these two dogs that were shot. One is definitely, the back leg is totally fractured. The other one, at first we thought was maybe just a flesh wound, but now we're thinking they could have a bullet lodged further down. So we could do an X-ray of that as well, just to check it out. OK, be with you soon anyway. Bye. Many of the dogs are, through past experiences, extremely frightened of humans, and some, of course, are in pain through injury. And we find the safest method of catching the dogs is to blow dart them. So our dog catchers have to be cunning and stealthy. People say, you know, dogs do have a high pain threshold, and I think that's probably true from some of the injuries we see and the fact that they're still walking around. But they must indeed be suffering acute pain with injuries like that. Phuket, of course, has an image overseas of being a paradise island, which in many ways it is for the tourists who come here. Beautiful beaches, good food, everything you would expect from a holiday destination. Of course, many tourists don't see beyond the beaches, and it's really a facade. Behind the beaches, it's a totally different world that people very rarely see or just catch a glimpse of. A female dog will come into season twice a year and a female cat probably 3 times a year. The Humane Society have stated that one pair of cats can exponentially in 4 years produce 700,000 offspring. And although in reality that wouldn't happen because disease and everything else would stop that, it gives you an idea of the problem.
ในความคิดของเขาถ้าเกิดว่าเขาเป็นมนุษย์นี่นะในส่วนที่ว่าถ้าเขาคิดอย่างนั้นคือเขาคิดว่าเขาอะเมื่อก่อนมีคนเคยเอาไปเลี้ยงแล้วก็ได้อยู่อย่างมีความสุขมีอาหารมีอะไรที่นอนแต่เวลาเขาถูกทอดทิ้งเขาจะเป็นไม่มีใครดูแลเขาแล้วก็บางครั้งก็ไม่มีอาหารจะกินบางครั้งก็โดนทำร้ายโดยที่ว่าเขาไม่มีความผิดอะไรก็มาทำร้ายเขาทำไมอย่างเงี้ย
แล้วอีกดอกก็เจอก็4 ดอกครบของมันเยอะไหมอีกตัวนี้เยอะไหมเจอแล้วอีกดอกไหนดอกตรงนี้เหรอดอกตรงนี้ผมเอาแล้วก็ดอกในป่าเจอไหมเจอก็ครบเป็นครบ1 2 3ครบ
Yeah, you can clearly see bullets on the X-ray. A bit sick when you see bullets stuck in the side of a dog like that. Here?
Yeah.
Right, and then it's gone through here.
Yeah.
But yet the break is here. You would think.
No break here.
Oh, break here. Ah, right. Okay, so very small bullet, yeah.
Let them see. No bullet.
No bullets. The bullet's gone straight through. Yeah.
Yeah, this broken here, not here.
Yeah.
And many bone piece.
Pieces of bone.
Yeah.
Be nice if we had an X-ray machine, but too much money. Cannot afford things like this. People in the West, if the dog gets a small cut or a scratch, they immediately take it to the vet. Here, things are different, and unless a wound gets very, very bad, often owners don't bother doing anything with it, and even then, sometimes not.
This dog have many maggots, and the wound is infectious.
ส่วนใหญ่
เมื่อวานผมอัดเบต้าดีนเอาไว้ไง
We give the powder to kill the worm
แต่จักรจี้หน่อย
first. Then when the worm died, they will come out by themselves. If the worm is still alive, it will run away from us. Because right now we're only shaving and then cleaning it up. We're not doing more than
เบ
that.
ต้าดีนด้วยเหรอ
สบายกับมีดนี่ปักคอหมอ
In about a few more days, 2 or 3 days, it could have penetrated through his paws.
On top of the own dogs coming in for treatment, we have our 200 residents who've been so badly treated they have to stay with us. Some people give up their holidays to help us, and the dogs absolutely love it.
I got in touch with Soi Dog 4 years ago when they were looking for volunteers, and I just love to come here once a week and just cuddle all these dogs because I know how important it is that they socialize. If they are adopted, it's so important that they behave nicely, otherwise the family would maybe bring them back. These are all street dogs, and that's why I think they still have a sense of knowing how to behave in a big pack. If dogs were abandoned by their family and they came here, they really suffer for a long time because they are still probably hoping that the family comes back, and sometimes they refuse to eat. These dogs especially get more love. If you come in and you see dogs who doesn't jump up on you or they have their tail under their belly, you don't just go to them and touch them. You try to do it slowly and you see if they really like to be touched or not. You don't want to push them. And if you can get a little bit closer, that's fine. Next week we are coming back and we try the same thing again.
There's no accurate figure for the number of dogs that are here. We estimate that there are between 20, 30,000 dogs on the island. Some of those, of course, are own dogs, but it would be fair to say there's probably around 20,000 stray dogs. And in fact, Jill and I often joke whenever we're driving around that we spend half our lives looking at dogs' undercarriages to see if they've been done or not. Hello. Yeah, they're fine. One had a bullet stuck inside it, but it came out okay. They'll need to stay at the shelter for a week or so. Well, I'm just driving past your field, actually. I'm on my way to the temple. Yeah, that builder's yard there is where Jill darted the dog, and then it ran off into this water buffalo field, which is going to flood in the rainy season. And obviously full of all the buffalo droppings and full of nasties. So it was actually that field.
The water was probably about 18 inches deep, something like that. So I had to go in and get her, because otherwise when the anaesthetic took hold, she would have drowned. And there's no way I could have that on my conscience, because it would have been me that would have caused her death. By the time I reached her and she'd gone down, I had to quickly get her head out so she didn't drown. I then had to carry her all the way back from there to the road to my truck. She was a big dog. She was at least 25, maybe 30 kilos. And so it was a very, very difficult task. I started off with her in my arms, and then as time went on, she slipped further and further down, so her legs were dangling in the water. I was exhausted by the time I got back to my truck. But we got her back to the clinic, got her sterilised, got her vaccinated, and she was returned the following day once the checkups had been made. A few days later, I started with dreadful pains in my legs, and I said to John, I'm sorry, you're going to have to take me to the hospital. And it was excruciating pain. I've never felt anything like it. And they put me in the emergency room on a trolley, and we just watched my legs change from flesh colour to a bluey grey. And from that moment to 3.5, 4 weeks later, I don't remember anything.
It's difficult to explain what you go through when you know the person that you love is laying there. To be told that she had maybe initially a 1 in 5 chance of surviving, that if she did survive, there was every chance she would lose both her arms and her legs. It's hard to describe.
When I woke up, or regained consciousness, so to speak, I already knew I was going to lose my legs. I think John must have been talking to me all the time. Or they could tell me from blood tests that it was a water soil-based gram-negative A bacteria, gangrene, in other words. You don't have to have a cut or anything like that. It can go through your toenails, it can go through the pores of your skin.
I was always confident that she would survive. I'm amazed actually how she even managed to keep her sanity. Not only did she have to cope with all that she'd been through and having to learn to walk again, and also the fact that her father had died that year, which had hit her badly. And at the same time, she continued to be totally focused on the dogs. There are about 50 temples on Phuket. Most of them have dogs living at them. They're basically stray dogs, but they stay in the one place and the monks keep an eye on them. I go around local hotels, get leftover food from the kitchens, which I then take for the temple dogs. It's generally seen as a place to dump unwanted puppies, and that's how it started. And most temples, depends, will vary. Most will have a population of between around about 30 to 40 dogs. Some will have less, but some will have more. Some of the temples are quite big, and they'll have different areas and different territories. So some dogs will have one area and some another, and they generally don't mix. I look after 5 temples myself. The reason we feed the dogs there is 2 reasons. 1, it keeps them off the streets. 2, we can monitor them for any sickness or disease. And 3, it enables us, when new puppies do come in, to sterilise them as soon as they're old enough. And so we're monitoring them all the time, because otherwise they would just start breeding in the temples and you'd get unwanted dogs yet again. Come on. Okay, that's a good thing. Some of these dogs you get to know very, very well, and others have had probably such bad experiences with people that even some dogs I've known 5 years now at certain temples still cannot touch them, and they keep the distance. Go on, you. The problem with this temple is that it's surrounded by a Muslim village, and the Muslims here on the island have quite a hatred for dogs. About a year ago, out of about the 30 dogs here, 20 were poisoned. Most of these dogs have come since. The monk lived here on his own. He uses the bark from a tree as presumably an emetic, which does make them sick, and he has saved a few that way, but unfortunately most of this happens at night, and he's asleep, and in the morning he gets up and he just finds dead dogs. Fortunately, touch wood, the last 12 months we've not had any further incidents, so hopefully it will happen again, but you never know. And as long as they're getting food, and it keeps them from going outside.
ปียกไหมโทษนะครับน้องเตยมือน้องเตยเปียกไหม
ไม่เป็นไรหรอก
เอาก้อนมา
That kills the maggots.
เอา
Yes.
ก้อนมา
It's also prevent the flies from coming in and laying the eggs again. มันอยู่ตรงนี้แล้วถ้ามันอยู่ในบ้านหรือเปล่า
It can be very frustrating when you've treated a dog and then the owner takes it away and you think, oh, they'll be very happy. What was a nasty wound? We put it right and it's now okay. And you expect them to be over the moon, and quite often they're just very blasé about it. Total different attitude to generally what you'd find in the West. When a dog needs further treatment, we hope the owners bring it back. Sadly, they don't always do, so you do worry about them when they leave. We give them antibiotics and hope the owner has the sense to give them the tablets. It is a frustrating side of the job, because you can't force them to come back.
เย็บมันรองเท้าอ่ะ
I know how busy the guys are at Soi Dog, and they do actually only depend on people visiting the foundation to be able to find home. So what I'm going to do is send out messages at the school that I work at and try to find a home amongst my own friends and colleagues.
Bite dog,
It never stops really. You'd imagine it gets calmer at night. There's always things that have to be taken care of, and often the days just tend to blend together into, well, so you don't really even remember what day it is. Our resident shelter dogs, they do quieten down at night, which is good. Well, most of them anyway, but some of the team live on site and they normally fall into bed pretty exhausted and not knowing what tomorrow will bring. And of course, dawn comes around very quickly.
เรียบร้อยแล้วครับครับบอกว่าต้องไปรีบเพราะเราต้องไปเอาของอยู่ครับครับครับ
I'm really glad that Soi Dog Foundation are here in Phuket because they really help sorting out all the problems with all the stray dogs. Sometimes you can't even walk on the beach, just packs of them. And they need to be sterilized and get treatments for other things. So no, it's good.
Hiya!
So it can actually move then?
I haven't moved for since I don't know what time. Well, it just came here and was walking around here, and then it was in those flowers over there. And my friend said it has froth in the mouth. Is it a kitten or?
It's not a kitten, but
You think it's ill? Oi.
it could possibly be poisoned or something. It's certainly not.
It's been lying there for hours.
Hours?
Oh God, yes. Do you think it might have been poisoned?
Possible.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe not targeting the cats, because they poison dogs more than cats, so they're not particularly this area I've know of.
Well, thank you, because I felt really bad. I didn't want to touch it.
I came here about 5 weeks ago, and I had a plan to walk most of the dogs. Well, my plan was to walk all of the dogs, but some of them I just couldn't walk because they were too frightened. So it's like 200 dogs in here, more or less. And I walked about 160, 170, something like that. It's kind of frustrating because, like, when you walk him, he becomes calmer and kind of gets used to you and, you know, just enjoys the walk. You can't take him again because there are others waiting in the queue, kind of. When I take a dog out, I can see how at the beginning he's really excited. He's just running there, back, and after some time he just relaxes, and that's the point of the walk, actually, to relax them every day.
Not moved for 10 o'clock this morning, just lay. And lay says you see bum, mouth, but I cannot see now. Eyes look okay. So I don't know, we have a look, but be careful. We see many animals poisoned. It happens all the time. It can be a mass poisoning where maybe 20, 30 dogs are targeted. Other times it could be just an odd animal that's been targeted by a neighbour that's annoyed. The chances of survival, that depends very much on how much poison the animal ingests and, of course, whether somebody sees the animal and helps it. If they don't, then it's a very slow and painful death.
It's 104.5.
The normal temperature should be 102. Because of the high temperature, that's why maybe it's foaming at the mouth.
Yeah.
So we're going to move him into the...
Put him next door.
Yeah, next door.
Although we do get many cases of cruelty, the majority of cases we see are actually down to just pure neglect and ignorance rather than outright cruelty. When you live here, you soon begin to see the things that tourists either don't ever come across or just don't want to see. This dog's skin is in very bad condition. Toy's taking skin scrapings to see what it is. It looks like it's maybe Demodec mange. All living creatures, including humans, have the Demodec mite in the skin. It doesn't cause any problems. But if a dog is unduly stressed or bad nutrition or something like that, it can take over. It's just it stays with us for treatment, but apparently the owner doesn't want it to stay. So we're just going to send it back with medication, and unfortunately all we can do is hope the owner does give the dog the medication. There's no welfare laws here, so we can't say this animal is suffering, therefore it has to stay here. We have no rights like that.
It's very ironic because the mother and the father is only 2 cages down from the puppy. But sometimes we know we have to separate them because we don't want the mother to be licking the wounds. The puppy, we're gonna keep him until he's healed, and hopefully we can find a home for him. And the mother and the father will go back because it's really difficult to find home for older dogs.
I'd actually like to see dogs living here at the shelter. I don't like to see them living in pens anywhere. And we only keep dogs that are in danger of being killed or further abused. It is actually our policy to return healthy dogs back to their territory as soon as possible after they're being sterilised.
These dogs are very wild. They've never been taken care of by people. They've never been seeing a lot of people. Because they're all wake up from the anesthesia already, they're gonna be really scared and they're gonna start fighting. So we try to get them on the truck, and hopefully when we go to the place, we just open the truck and they'll get off by themselves. I think that the mother really misses her pups. So, but they'll be all right.
Okay, Dr. Matt, can we just have a look at the dog with the machete wound? Yep. It's here. A foreign tourist saw this dog at the side of the road with a nasty wound on its neck, and they called us. So we sent one of our dog catchers. He went down, found it. You have to blow dart it to get it because it's a very frightened dog. And now he's getting used to people again. Often amazes me how dogs do this. I mean, some of the things they've been through, the ill treatment they've had, how they can ever learn to trust people again is absolutely phenomenal. A lot of the dogs in the shelter have been similarly attacked and wounded, and just so friendly, love people still. We can't put a dog back to an area where he's not familiar with. It would be cruel. I mean, other dogs would just see it off. And if we put it back where he came from, the same thing's likely to happen again, only this time they might be successful. And this dog will probably have to spend the rest of his days with us. You're going to be okay. Yeah? You're going to be okay, aren't you? Even if we'd like to keep all the dogs that come here, there's simply no way we could. We get about, 20 dogs a day coming in for sterilising alone. And even if we could keep them, I doubt very much whether the dogs themselves would actually appreciate it. A lot of these dogs, they're living wild, but they're living free, and they like their own territory. Every month we run mobile clinics off Phuket. Basically, wherever there are dogs that need us, that's where we go. When we first started, all our clinics were mobile clinics. But as we've progressed, it makes sense to have a permanent clinic at the shelter. But we still do run mobile clinics. For example, on Khao Lak, our dog catchers will leave early one morning. It's about an hour and a half's drive to Khao Lak. They'll go off and set up a clinic. Could be on the side of the road, could be in a school, could be in a temple. They'll stay there for 3 days. Obviously, it's a small team, usually just one vet and 2 dog catchers. So there has to be a good team spirit between them. And we're very fortunate in that our staff get on extremely well with one another. Mobile clinics generally take the same form, but locations can differ considerably. I mean, some of them are in very poor conditions.
remember one on Koh-Lanta at a sea gypsy village where literally they had very little shelter and operations were being carried out with torches and umbrellas. Khao Lak is generally better. We have a number of locations there. We have clinics at schools, at temples, and various locations in that area.
In the early days, we didn't have any full-time staff.
Jill and I would be the dog catchers and the nurses and do all the preparation and everything. And we continued like that with one or two other volunteers joining in, particularly Leonie Cousins, who was an Australian who lived in the south of the island and looked after many, many dogs in the southwest.
She used to know everybody who was feeding at every temple in the south, whereas John and I live in the north. So she had a handle on everything. She employed 2 local Thai people out of her own money to feed at temples, and she used to buy food and get them to cook it up for them to distribute. We'd go out dog catching together, in the clinic, just cuddling and loving the dogs, taking ticks out, cutting great big knots out of Rastafarian kind of dogs because they've had no grooming. And when I was in hospital, even though her husband had had a stroke at the same time and he was in Singapore, there wasn't a day she didn't contact John to find out how I was.
Jill had been in hospital for 3 long and very worrying months. But of course she'd only been home for 5 days trying to come to terms, well, with what had happened, and we suddenly found ourselves caught up in what turned out to be the worst natural disaster in modern times.
Leonie rented a small house, which in turn she used to sublet to tourists. She realised that the first wave had hit because her house wasn't too far away, and she went to get the people, the tourists, out of the rented house, and she got them all out, but the second wave got her.
For the first 3 days, we were involved in the human relief effort. Khao Lak was certainly the biggest hit area in the region, and Jill and I, with other friends, drove up there to see what we could do. And I ended up helping other people wrap some of the literally hundreds of bodies that had just been stacked up there.
They were wrapping them up in muslin and then putting them in bin liners. Obviously, I couldn't partake of this because I was still in a wheelchair because there was so much rubble around. So John took me to the hospital in Khao Lak. Okay, I don't know what it's like to go through a tsunami, but I do know what it's like to go through a trauma. And really all people wanted to do was to be able to talk to somebody. There were so many wonderful friends who were there for me when I lost my legs. I wanted to be there for these poor people. When the relief teams arrived in Khao Lak, John and I came back to Phuket. John went back to working with the dogs. The main problem was all the beach restaurants had been washed away, the hotels were in disarray, and the dogs on the beach, that's their food source. Leftover food from the beach vendors, tourists will feed them off the plates, etc. And so this food source was gone. So it then became a desperate task to get as much food as we could possibly get donated so we could feed these animals, and we built up a network of volunteers around the island to feed animals.
Many people thought, well, that would be that for Soi Dog, but what happened, of course, is that the focus of the world was on this area at that time. So, in effect, in the months following the tsunami, we were inundated with overseas vets and volunteers for about 3 or 4 months. All of a sudden, the amount of donations we were getting went up. One society, Whisper, the World Society for Protection of Animals, had a tsunami appeal.
We were given a 2-year grant for 2 years only, and then the funding stopped. But that enabled us to employ our own vets, dog catchers, our own assistants, and therefore we were able to sterilise far, far more animals than we would ever have been able to have done before. Out of something so horrible, something so good came out of it for the animals, because without that funding from the tsunami, Soi Dog would not be where it is today.
ฮัลโหลครับ ใช่ครับ
We sometimes get calls from very poor people who are looking after large numbers of dogs, and of course they can't afford vet bills, and quite simply the dogs are getting out of control. So when we get a call like that, the priority is to pick the dogs up, get them sterilized so that at least they're not reproducing.
They're trying to catch the ones that aren't done yet because most of them are done already. So right now the owner himself is trying to feed to get the attention. You can see the condition of these dogs are not too bad. They look like they've been fed, but if it continues to breed at this rate, he won't be able to help them because he is, as you can see, this is his house. He doesn't have the money to provide for them. Even though some of these do fight when they're outside, they don't fight in the car. Usually very little. There's sometimes they do fight, but not so much. Right now, the dog are pretty panicked because there's a lot of people. So maybe tomorrow we come back at like dawn to blow out some. We're going to go to the next location, but he's staying with the dogs.
Okay, good.
Because today we start quite late, we're going to catch every single dog that we're going to sterilize today, this morning, and so we can just go back and concentrate on the surgery. We don't know that the dogs that we're going to catch are going to fight with the one that we already have or not, but because of the fear, hopefully it's going to be okay. Right now we're deciding on which dog to catch because we use the food as bait so that they come and eat.
You have to respect that these are not pet dogs, dogs that you would have in your home. They're street dogs. They're wily. They're very, very tough. How some of them survive with very little food and through often continual abuse is really a testament to how hardy they are.
Right now we have 12 dogs inside. We got 2 more from just now, and hopefully we're getting 1 more.
Hello. Hey, Dad.
You often wish that, well, often people do say, if only they could talk, and you wish they could talk because you could explain to them that you're trying to help them and treat them. But of course they don't know this. All they know is some Thai man's coming with a lead and trying to catch them, and to them that's a message to run.
จี้เล็กได้ไหมครับนี่ลองไปบอกเขาให้หมันเนี่ยถ้าจับจะไปทำหมันจะไม่ต้องเกิดลูก
ไปทำหมัน
We can't find the dog, so we're analyzing where it should have been running to. We've been checking all these areas and we can't find it yet. So when we take them back to our place, to our sterilizing place, we're going to write and record every single dog, like the color and the weight, so that we know exactly which dog is from where. But right now, from now, it's just memory, and we do know all of the dogs anyway.
It's becoming increasingly common to find plastic bags with kittens and puppies in them that have been left on the main road. It's thought that way the car kills them and not the person. It's just one of the frustrating parts of the religions here. And also, sadly, a lot of the street dogs are killed, often because they've been dumped in a strange area or have been crossing the road in search of food. They normally will stop if they see a dog or a cat on the side of the road, even if it's dead, because if we don't pick them up, they're just left to rot there, and we encourage them to pick them up and at least give them some sort of respect and closing dignity.
Okay, as you see, this cat didn't make it. We'll be doing an autopsy on it later today. But the strong suspicion is that it was rat poison, but we'll have confirmation of that later today. See what the cause of death was.
We know of one case, not very long ago, where the locals literally rounded up all the beach dogs, enclosed them in a pen, and then had a party while they watched them die from the poisoned meat they'd given them. There is one incinerator on the island which is for all the rubbish, and that's where the dogs go. It'd be nice to be able to bury them here, but the fact is we don't have the space. Even if we did, the water is drawn from a well, and that water comes from the ground. And to bury dogs with disease or not could very rapidly start to contaminate the water.
On a mobile clinic, we work harder than usual because we're only here for a short period of time. So if there's more dog coming in, then they have sometimes less than 10 minutes for lunch, and then they come back and do sterilization again. This one, as you can see, he has a little bit of eye infection, so we're gonna give him some ointment. Usually dogs don't get dehydrated during surgery like cats, so we don't apply ointment for it. But this one have a little bit of an eye problem, so we put it in for him. And now we're giving the dog the ivermectin. For the anti-parasite, it's actually a routine that we do. It's like our protocol. We have to give every dog vaccination and anti-parasite and the antibiotic. And he's not completely fully asleep yet. It's really important to keep the area of operation clean. Otherwise, the dog can get infection from us, from the whole environment. We're trying to help these dogs. We're not trying to hurt them. So we're trying to keep everything clean and make this operation less painful as possible. We tie him up so that it can stay in the position we want without having to have somebody holding it. These instruments are autoclaved, so they're really sterilized. We only use it once, and after this we take it to the nearby sanitation center to get it autoclaved again every day. Because they look alike, in order to identify that they're castrated or sterilized, we have to make a tattoo on both ears so that when we go back to the same place, we can know without having to bring them back and then open it up again that it's already done.
Sometimes the local authority will publicise the mobile clinics for us in advance, and so local people will bring their animals actually to the clinic. It's important to get the own dogs as well, otherwise they will not be sterilised and the resulting puppies will simply end up being dumped and as a new generation of strays.
เอ็นดูแล้วก็สงสารมันเพราะว่ามันไม่เคยถูกผูกมัดไม่เคยอยู่ในกรงแบบที่บ้านจะเลี้ยงแบบปล่อยอิสระมันจะเป็นหมาที่ว่าขี้กลัว ต้องคอยโอ้คอยกอดอยู่ตลอดขนาดอยู่บ้านแบบลูกๆจุดลูกประทัดเล่นนะมันก็กลัวมันก็จะวิ่งหนีเข้าบ้านถ้าเกิดไปเห็นหมาตัวอื่นที่ว่าเขาไม่ค่อยดูแลมันเราก็รู้สึกเสียใจแต่ว่าถ้าเอามาเลี้ยงเองมันก็ไม่ไหวก็อยากไปบอกแต่ว่าไม่รู้ว่าเขาอยากจะมาหรือเปล่าเพราะว่ามาแล้วมันต้องใช้เวลาแล้วก็การเดินทางบางคนเขาก็ไม่มีเวลา
Clinics and shelters in the West often manage to get food and drugs donated by manufacturers. That unfortunately doesn't apply in Thailand at all. We do get some medical supplies donated, but that's generally from overseas volunteers who go around their own vets and literally come over with a suitcase full of usually sell-by-date drugs and other supplies. And of course that does cut down on what we have to pay here, so it is a help.
ถูกกัดบ่อยไหมมันก็ไม่ค่อยบ่อยนานครั้งครับส่วนมากจะถูกกัดนี่เราจะมันจะเป็นในที่ว่ายังไงมันแบบเราไม่ทันตั้งตัวอย่างเงี้ยบางครั้งที่ว่าเราโดนกัดนะบางครั้งที่เราไปจับบางทีเราไม่รู้ว่าหนังเขาจะหย่อนอะไรเงี้ยที่ต้นที่คอส่วนมากเราจะจับตรงนี้เพื่อความปลอดภัยของเราแล้วก็มันก็จะหันมากัดเราไม่ได้หนังมันจะหย่อนพอเราไปจับพอเราดึงขึ้นมาหนังหย่อนมันก็หันมากัดได้แต่เรื่องการฉีดวัคซีนป้องกันโอเคครับฉีดป้องกัน3 ปีถึงจะไปฉีดใหม่เวลาที่ถูกกัดนะครับมันก็เจ็บครับมันก็ถ้าเกิดว่าเขากัดเข้าเยอะๆมันก็เจ็บมากเหมือนกับตรงที่ว่าช่วงที่ไปเขาหลักนั้นปวดมากแต่เราโดนบ่อยเราก็ชินอยู่แล้วอันนี้จะเป็นยาแก้หลอดบวมครั้งละ1 เม็ดเหมือนกันเป็นเม็ดอันนี้ถึงมันจะเต้นเลยการปลาทำด้วยกันให้ยานี้ให้กินแล้วก็เดี๋ยวมันจะอักเสบกับขอบคุณนะครับ
At our mobile clinics, the work is predominantly sterilisation, and we have a limited time frame. Therefore, it's important that They do as many as they can. Obviously, we have to bear safety in mind and everything, but fortunately with a vet like Dr. Max, who's been with us now for 15 months and has already done 3,000-4,000 sterilizations, because of doing that many, he's very experienced. He can do at least 30 dogs in a day, and very, very competently and without any problems at all. As of today, we've sterilised over 23,000 dogs and cats, but it's very frustrating to each week see sometimes dozens of puppies flown or driven down from puppy farms in Bangkok for sale here at pet shops and markets, knowing that many of these dogs will also end up as strays or the parents are strays. Nevertheless, we like to think we've prevented an awful lot of suffering in this area of Thailand. Neither Jill or I are getting any younger. Each year I say, right, that'll be it. Somebody else will have to do it. But unfortunately, there isn't anybody as daft as us, I don't think, around. And yeah, we're always hoping there'll be someone come along who will be able to help us and eventually take over. But until that happens, we have to keep going. Once you start something like this, you can't just say, that's it. It would just all fall down. So we can't.
Đó làตัวดำนั่นแหละตัวเดียวแล้วก็ไอ้แดงตัวใหญ่
แล้วพวกนี้มันมาที่ไหนนะคะอาจารย์มาเอานะ
ได้ครับเมื่อเช้าผมว่าจะเอาแล้วพอดีจากที่บอกว่าให้ป้าไม่ได้แต่ทีนี้ผมว่าจะเดี๋ยวก็
ที่จริงเดี๋ยวก่อนนะแต่เล่านี่มันหมาคนอื่นหรอกนะแต่ว่าเจ้าของบ้านเขาคนมีสตางค์เขาเลี้ยงไม่เป็นแล้วเขาเรียกพอหมาจะอาบน้ำจะอะไรเรียกมันก็เลยติดไอ้เมาเริ่มไอ้เมามันตื่นแล้วไม่มันชื่อไอ้เมา
ลง7 ตัวไหม8โอเค
คนไม่เข้าใจนะ
Certainly not our intention to eradicate street dogs altogether. Street dogs are a part of Thailand, but what is the problem is the sheer numbers and the suffering that occurs because of those numbers, and that's what we're trying to stop. Could we ever turn our backs on the dogs? They've shown us so much loyalty, so much trust. How could we ever live with ourselves if we did that? Never mind look a dog in the eye if we walked away and left them now. We could have come here and lazed on the beach all day and partied every night, which is what a lot of people do. But I think both of us would have got very bored very quickly living like that. I think at the beginning you asked me, would we be here if we knew then what we know now? Would we still have left England and come out to Thailand? And I know I speak for both Jill and I when I say, yes, of course we would.
Cat's known for soy dog. They're all around town. Love us with all you do, all you do. Don't tear us apart. Don't you have a heart? Lovable rejects that won't be kept down. Love us with all you do, all you do. We're sad, that's loud. We're sore, but we're proud.